Hey, so I'm a little late on this one, and it might not come as a big surprise or anything, but I really loved Hi-Fi Rush. This game is awesome, and I 100% recommend it if you haven't checked it out yet, because it just checks a lot of boxes that I really appreciate. My last Q&A video, I think it was, I went on record saying specifically I wish there were more games that had cartoon energy to them, and this game, like right after, released and totally answered my prayers. Hi-Fi Rush is like an excellent combo of cartoons, anime, Devil May Cry, Beautiful Joe, combat games like that, and Scott Pilgrim and Baby Driver, and just good music stuff. That's the best way I can describe it in my dumb way. What it essentially is, of course, is a action game, a hack and slash, beat 'em up type game, but with a rhythm-based thing to it. So it's like a rhythm action game, but it's got a little bit of a different spin to it. It's a little bit more accessible, and you're still able to enjoy it if you're like me, which this might not come as a big surprise to you guys, but I got no rhythm. It still just manages to be incredibly fun, and I just think this game came out of nowhere, and it really blew me away. I definitely want to talk about the whole aspect or the concept of a surprise release. We'll touch on that later in the video, but to jump back, the rhythm-based action combat stuff. This is a straightforward, pretty simple game-ass game. You progress through levels, you walk, you fight some enemies, you figure out some puzzles, you do some platforming, and the combat is probably the most satisfying aspect to it, to the point where I found myself wanting more enemy encounters because fighting is just that addictive. And even if I'm not the best at it, I had a hell of a time with it. So you are essentially encouraged to strike and hit enemies on a beat. That will cause more damage, but also open you up to more combos and stuff like that. And it works also with the dodge, with your jump, and with parries and stuff you get later on. The game very nicely introduces mechanics to you slowly and significantly throughout the whole game, and it kind of double tutorializes you, where it understands that the whole rhythm aspect that you have to grasp for some of these things is difficult. So it'll kind of introduce the concept to you, and then you'll find a tutorial bot that'll once again kind of describe it in plainer language. And it does take a little bit to really get a knack for it. And I will admit, in the gameplay and everything, I am not perfect at it, but it didn't get in the way of the fun. And when I did really get my hooks on it and get those perfectly timed swings to a great combo, then it was really just like this aha moment. And I got addicted to trying to just get better at playing on the beat and understanding the beat. And the game really sets up so much for you to succeed. It's not an easy game. Enemies can wipe you out pretty good, but the game does a lot to really, it understands that the concept is novel and a little bit hard to grasp for some people, especially if you're not used to rhythm games. It has an on-screen indicator that you can turn on or off. Your little companion is also pulsing to the beat, and the game world is also vibing to the beat. Things in the environment are jumping and bouncing to the music, similar to one of the later Def Jam games that kind of had that. That's a weird game to compare to, but the environments behind you would bounce to the songs when you would do stuff, but I digress. Combat is just fun. I like these types of games. Devil May Cry is one of my favorite games. All of them, I love slashing and dodging and all that stuff. This has a dodge, a grappling hook, a parry, multiple attacks, and the ability to call in different allies at certain points. You're going to be using them while you're navigating the environment and stuff for clever little things and navigation stuff, but calling them in battle is cool because it just kind of reminds me of Marvel vs. Capcom, the way they're implemented, where you can just hit it and they come in and they go, okay, and they do a cool thing and then they hop out. It's very satisfying to do that and nail it perfectly with a combo, or you hit somebody up in the air and you have Peppermint, one of the characters, come out and with pistols juggle them in the air even more for you to get up there and do some more stuff. The game also does have these screen filling, crazy cinematic special attacks that are very satisfying. Not all of them are great. You can equip different ones. There's a whole progression system where you collect gears throughout the levels, and then you can buy new attacks and buy new special attacks and equip them. Not all the special attacks are great. I kind of found the few I really liked and stuck with them. But where the combat really shines is honestly, it just does a really good job every time it introduces you to a new enemy. That's always really satisfying. But also the bosses. The bosses are insane. They're so good. Screen filling, cinematic, amazing bosses that all, again, like I brought it up in the start, and I don't want to be reductive, but they all give me that like Scott Pilgrim vibe, specifically the way the Edgar Wright film depicted a lot of this stuff, how it embraced anime and cartoons and video games and into this cool cinematic style. Like this game wears so many of its inspirations on its sleeve. There's JoJo references. There's all this stuff that just creates like a crazy amount of shit on screen. And the bosses, when like a good license track is going, like the first one is 9 Inch Nails. And like, you know, if that doesn't really like hook you into the game, that song, the fighting the boss to the beat, you're dodging the boss is swinging at you with the beat and you're dodging it. If that doesn't really hook you, the rest probably won't. But that right there should make you go, holy shit, this is incredible. Even if it's not your type of thing or even your type of style, you got to give props to the way this thing was made. I have appreciation for just how games are made. I don't understand it, of course. I'm a layman, but with how they put this together, it's one of those things where I'm like, holy shit, how does it look like this? How do the action scenes transition to these cutscenes that look like real cartoons? How do the bosses actually, how do you fight them like that? It's just really, really something else. You can tell I'm totally gushing about this game. That's what I do on this channel. I talk about stuff I love. I don't really have too many criticisms about the game other than that I wish it was longer, but it is very, very well paced. I don't think it overstays its welcome. You know, it's a good solid 10 hours that like it knows what it's doing. It never really dries up. And again, it consistently introduces new things throughout that are pretty good. I don't like the jumping also during certain platforming sequences. It's kind of got that very rigid, straight up fast Devil May Cry jump that's more for the aerial combats and less for the actual platforming. Got a little annoying here and there, but every boss has its own thing. There's a boss that makes fun of how video games are made and how crunch culture works. There's a boss with like wrestler energy. There's bosses that just poke. There's so much to it, and it's all just really creative. I actually found the jokes good. I laughed quite a bit during the game. I was surprised how much I was entertained. There's some kiddie stuff. There's some stuff that doesn't land, but the stuff that hits, I really, really appreciate it. It doesn't like try too hard or stumble or get cringy or anything. Like it's just got such a strong confidence to it. Like they knew what they were making with this game. It just seemed like totally perfect direction from top to bottom. The sense of style is great. The cool factor of it, that's what it really is. I kept playing this game and going, holy shit, if this came out when I was like a young teenager, this would have become my identity, you know, like when certain things come out like that. Hi-Fi Rush is straight up that. I'm glad this game is being received well. It seems like most people are liking it. Again, I'm a little behind the 8 ball on this. I had to grind through a bunch of other games for review on Game Ranks, but man, I would really love to see DLC or something like that, because I wish the game had more licensed tracks, like big famous stuff. So if they came out with like a DLC expansion or a new story thing, like all done by one artist or something, that could be really, really cool. There's a lot of potential for this. I would love to see this become more of a thing, honestly, especially considering how Chai is. Like he's very much like, hey, cool guy. But the way he works, the way he animates, and just the way the game goes for that cartoon thing, the amount of times Chai will smack into a wall, hit the ground like splat, or crunch up, like just that strong cartoon energy, that manic zaniness. I'm running out of words to describe it, but like that part of it also just is something I really, really appreciate. And the fact, again, going back, it's just a damn good video game with solid and actually addictive combat. The rhythm-based combat really makes it a step above your standard hack and slash action-y combo game. There are so many specific moments in this game when the music starts hitting and an enemy shows up and your character does a cool thing, or like there's an incredibly brilliant transition from like an on-rails moment to a cutscene to then gameplay that blows your mind, and then you jump in and cool shit. Like there's so many moments that I just want to scream about, but I don't want to spoil it all. I think it definitely should be experienced if you're like an action combat player, a rhythm player, or just somebody who appreciates crazy games where you look at it and you go, how did this get made? The bigger question is, how did this get made almost in total secrecy? As you guys probably know, this game just surprise dropped. It was announced during an Xbox thing a few weeks back, and at that event, they just said, and it's out now. Go download it. It's from Tango Gameworks, the people behind games very different than this one. But it is so satisfying and really special, and I think the whole surprise release thing can be very, very cool and sometimes really work in a game's favor. This is totally a good example of that. I mean, think about it. It just came out, no expectations, no hype, Nothing, like we didn't know anything, so there was no like annoying discourse or debate or picking things apart. I do this for a job. I love talking about games. I love dissecting things, but every once in a while, it's a breath of fresh air to just have a game come out with no hype, no anything, no angry people, no overly hyped people. It's just, here's a game. Everybody jump in it right now. Judge it on your own merits. Reviewers had to go scramble and start playing through the game. People were excited to just run and go download it. Awesome. I think that sometimes this can be a really cool thing and a very exciting way to release a game. I think this would have been very hard to market in the traditional sense, like we hear about it a year from now, or rather a year ago. And then you're like, oh yeah, whatever happened to that like Tango anime game? And then like it shows up and you're like, I don't know. There's something about it just going bang. Here it is. You don't know what it is. Just play it, dummy. But like in a good way, you know? I think there's something to be said about that. The bad side of this is that there's no physical release right away, I guess. And I would have really have liked to have picked up a physical copy of this. I like the game enough that I will at some point. You can also play it on Steam Deck, which I really appreciated. I like that there's a Steam release. The game is $30. I think that's definitely well worth it. Ultimately, I don't think every game should be surprise release. You don't know what this is and suddenly it's out, because that can get exhausting and the average consumer might have trouble keeping up with that sometimes. But to every once in a while just get a good surprise drop morsel, I think it works perfectly. And I think it was totally in Hi-Fi Rush's favor because it just made it feel like this special surprise, but one that to me, after playing through the whole thing, isn't just all hype or all surprise release or, Tango made a totally different game. It's that it's actually just damn good on its own merits, devoid of everything. So I'm so happy for that. Like I said, I want a DLC or something like that. I want a sequel. I want little short videos online, like little animated things about this world, about these characters. It's got charming little things to say about like confidence, yourself, the whole thing with robots in the game, like being a defect or really embracing your flaws, or at least that's what I got out of it. Like there's just a lot to this game that'll make you smile as you play. That sounds cheesy, but I mean it. I didn't have like a zinger for that one, but yeah, for real. So that's how I feel about Hi-Fi Rush. Again, it's something that like I really would love to like dissect some scenes, but I think you should go check it out for yourself. There's really something to this one. So if you like what I do here, if you like just hanging out with me, if you get what I'm trying to do, I just talk about shit I love, clicking the like button helps me. Thank you guys. And big thanks to Patreon and YouTube membership subscribers who have my back. I appreciate you guys. I am so glad I managed to squeeze this game in. I got a bunch of videos coming on some more games, new and old, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But thank you for being here. I'm Jake Baldino. Subscribe because video games, pizza's on me.